John Kirk. I'll be a moderator this afternoon. I'm a pop culture writer for popmythology.com, Trek 4, and Back Issue. But it's my distinct pleasure, and as a fan of the cinema and J.R. Tolkien's epic masterpiece, Lord of the Rings, to introduce to you Gimli the Warrior, John Rhys-Davies to the stage. Please give him a big hand.
Thank you all for having nothing better to do with your afternoon. Anyway, and if she's here, special thanks to Leah, 5 months old, who actually gave me a nice bit of mummy milk. And I'm very grateful. Anyway, okay, so what's the scandal? Does this thing work? Oh, thank God it does. Anyway, right.
Okay, I have to ask, you're such an iconic and unforgettable star, but do people get surprised when they actually see how tall you are?
You have a problem with dwarves. I don't know where they got this idea that dwarves are small. The rest of the world has a different perspective.
I'm like Snow White.
And we sprint like hell, too. Right. Oh, do I need this damn thing? I don't think. Well, put it down for a second. So, all right, who's got some damn fool questions? All right.
And just like that, we're off to the races, folks.
Yes.
What was your favorite episode from Sliders?
I think the one where I no, I didn't say that out loud, did I? I can't remember now, to be honest with you. Did you like Sliders?
I absolutely loved it. I think it's like the best show ever.
And are there opportunities that might come back, John?
Well, I have to tell you that Jerry and I are talking to NBC at the moment. Our basic problem at the moment is no one knows who has the rights to this. And their legal department has been delving, and normally when legal departments delve, they solve the problem in 2 days. And it's turning up to be 2 months now. So we may fall with the first steps, but if there is an audience for it, I think it would be about time to just give it.
Is there an audience, folks?
So that was a good question. I think that in fact, I would say that's the best question so far.
Well done.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a funny moment with Harrison Ford?
I can't, you sue me. One of the most charming, the most endearing moments, when you think that, you've got Harrison Ford, definitely big star, alpha male, and then you've got Sean Connery, definitely big star, alpha male. You think, how is this going to work out? And we're all in a lift. I can't remember where. It was fairly early on. We get in the lift, and the three of us are going up, and a lady gets into the lift, and she looks at me and looks at Harrison, and then Sean Connery. she sort of melts, and I looked at Harrison. He was just brilliant with fandom himself, and I really thought that was rather lovely. He's a great actor and a great star. He's done really well, and he's still so good. Very good. Yeah, nice question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Who else has got some damn fool? Are we done? Good. Yes.
Have you been asked to be in any future Indiana Jones movies?
No, I haven't been asked to be in any other Indiana Jones movies. Every time I bump into Steven Spielberg, as one does, his studio, you mean? I always say to him, you know, Stephen, now, 1 and 3, definitely the best. 2 and 4, just missing something. Now, I guess he gets the message. Yes.
I was wondering if you had a particular role that really stood out to you creatively?
Well, you know, that's an interesting variant of the question that one gets, what's your favorite part? To which I have a pat response, the next one. But that's an interesting thing. Creatively, yes, what can one do? I mean, Treebeard was a nightmare that I still suffer from. I get it right. It's not right as it is in the book, and I don't know how to do it. And I still think about it. How would I do it? I did a charming little horror picture the other day. It's called Soldier of War. It's just been released. It's a little DVD. The only thing that sets it apart from other horror pictures is that it's actually based in a context that is real. In 1940, when the British Army was driven out of Europe at Dunkirk, we were on the verge of invasion. And Winston Churchill, who had just taken over, he ordered the creation of a totally separate auxiliary force that was to consist of 2 or 3 people. They would be given, they would dig out in the forest and wherever it was. They had special bunkers. They were given explosives, ammunition, and 14 days of rations, because that was their life expectancy. And they were told, they were recruited from outside the force, and one of their instructions, the first instruction was, in the event of invasion, they were to open the instructions, and the first instruction was, kill whoever knows where this place is, including their senior officers, the local policeman, the mayor of the town, maybe the farmer. And their object was to harass and terrorize the enemy and to pass messages on to the British Army retreating up in the north of England, ready for their counterattack. And that's the context of this little horror picture. And it really is there's just something about it as it's not a great classic movie or anything like that, but because it has that context, which is real, it gives it a certain poignancy that horror films would not normally have. As a result of that, and I play an old man in it who is actually beginning to suffer from senility. So I guess now I'm going to get a run of senile parts. In fact, I've already got offers for the next one. Oh dear. As Shakespeare put it, and so from hour to hour we ripe and ripe, and then from hour to hour we rot and rot. And thereby hangs a tale. Anyway, enough of that. Is that a sort of answer?
I think that was a pretty good answer.
Right. All right, we're done now. I'll wait a minute. Yes?
Is there a cause or an issue that is really important to you that you try to help people out with?
Is there a what?
A cause or an issue like a charity that you try to help promote?
Well, it should be Alzheimer's. My darling old first wife was with the Cuckoos for about 30 years of our 42-year marriage. And I've got a lot of sympathy for that. But in fact, it turned out to be something quite different. I I have a home on the Isle of Man, and the local radio station chief phoned me up and he said, would you do a voiceover appeal on the radio for the hospice? And I said, yeah, of course I'd love to. And so the Hospice Isle of Man were launching a campaign so that people could leave some money to the hospice in their will. Now you understand that the Isle of Man's got a population of about 70,000, right? So you're not expecting a great deal. So I did it about 5 or 6 years ago, and got a call the other day, about a year ago, saying, that went very well, would you do it again? And I said, yes, of course I will do. And just as an afterthought, they said, oh, by the way, we can't quantify it exactly, but we think that you raised somewhere between 4 and 6 million pounds. But that got me thinking. So I do something. Whenever I'm in a country, I say to them, look, if there's anything I can do for the hospice, let me know. So the hospice, Montreal, I believe, I've done some stuff. So if ever you guys have a hospice connection and you find me in the country and you can find a way to use me, please do. Absolutely. Is that a really stupid answer? Yes. Oh, I love that wig. You know, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I have to embarrass her somehow. And that pink wig, if I turn it to school, actually, the butterfly, the flower wings too, I think. Do the whole thing, didn't I? Hello, darling. Wonderful. Yes.
So, kind of speaking of animals, which was more difficult to ride, a horse or a camel?
Actually, a camel is far harder. There's very much a sort of, I don't know, you get used to both of them if you try. The elephant is the crippler. Harrison, when Harrison did the second one, he'd had an old injury anyway, and the riding on the elephant was really sort of hammering his back. They had to delay filming for a while they basically tried to dissolve a disc in his back. And I think they used fire or something like that as an enzyme to do that. I don't know, that probably medical people here will say you don't know what you're talking about. Yes?
Is there anything that you filmed this dimly that you wish had been in the movies?
I think that the whole thrust of Lord of the Rings has been misrepresented. The truth is, it is the epic story of a dwarf who saves civilization and the hobbits. But everyone has their little idea of what really happened, and I am here to tell you that, well, you know, it was the dwarf, really, and I'm not the pointy-eared devil who claims credit for everything. Yes, first at the back.
What was it like to film Lord of the Rings so long, and did you enjoy it?
It was a long shoot, yes. On the professional level, it was the most extraordinary thing because Peter Jackson just demonstrated all the things that no one ever tells you about in filmmaking. In the end, it's about logistics and stamina. You know, I didn't really want to do Blake in the beginning because I'd spent 30 years of my life trying to be recognized, and then having to put a full prosthetic on, I thought this is not a smart move. Added to which, this little chap in New Zealand has no idea what he is letting himself into. You know, 14 months of principal photography, you know, 21 leading characters, you know, 200 crew with the stuntmen and people like that. He does not know what happens in that time. Something goes wrong. there is always a crisis when you're making films. Something goes wrong and you get delayed. And once you start getting delayed at the cost of £100,000 or £200,000 a day, you know, very soon your whole production is you never get out of it. So when we find ourselves in Queenstown, here is the production office. Here is the center of Queenstown, where all the actors are billeted, right? And we have rain. We have significant rain, which comes down here, wipes 12 houses out and the road, and instead of there being a 3-kilometer drive, there is now 19 kilometers of single track connecting the two. That is the day the call sheet went out. There will be no filming tomorrow because the lake is underwater. The lake is about 100 square miles around it, yes. This is the only time that I've ever been issued with a pair of Wellington boots in order to get into my hotel. You waded through the bottom, and then you went up the step ladder to the first floor to your room. Now, I mean, that's the fun bit. But you imagine now, you've got 9 of your principal actors. You've got a crew with stuntmen. You've got horses. You've got wranglers. You've got about 200 beds to fight. You either stay there and wait till everything dries out, by which time you've lost the picture, or you have to move on. And that's when you can tell the men from the boys. We did not work that day. The following day we moved to another part of South Island, and the day after that we picked up again and started working. South Island, New Zealand has a population of barely, 800,000 people there, maybe less. There aren't endless hotels and bed and breakfasts that you could just pop into easily. How they did that seems to me to be one of the great unsung, memorable things about that production. Just quite extraordinary. That's it. Anyway, yes.
Do you have any of Smoke's Ford?
Go on. Do I have any what?
Any souvenirs from filming, like some of Smoke's Ford or?
Well, I may have an axe. Or I may not. Yes, gentleman at the back.
You were in the trial of the Incredible Hulk. At the end, you played the Kingpin, and the Kingpin got away at the end. You didn't have a showdown with Lou Ferrigno. What was it like working with Phil Bixby and Lou Ferrigno?
Well, Lou is a friend of mine, a really lovely man. He's also just had an operation that enables him, he was born virtually, or became deaf very early on. He's had this marvelous operation which has really restored his hearing so much now. And his whole speech pattern has emerged and has become enriched, and his natural intelligence it just comes bubbling through. I love Luke. He's a great man. Now Bixby, Bixby was one of the nicest men you could meet in the world. He was a really golden soul, and he was charming, intelligent, good actor, and those of us who had the pleasure of knowing him really miss him. We have a great camaraderie. We have this. But there are some actors that you work with, but when they die, you go, ah, what a shame. Good fella. When you think of a Bixby, you go, the world is a lesser place. But anyway, yes, so great people, lovely people, proud to know them. Right, next question. Ah, young man here.
I first became aware of you as an actor. I mean, I've seen you before, but in 1992's The Lost World, which is still one of my favorite dinosaur-type movies of all time. And then you came back and returned to The Lost World. Is there going to be another one?
Well, no one's ever suggested it, so I can't say it. Lost World was Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yep.
And we were let down terribly because our creature effects weren't very good. In fact, I was talking to the then head of, I think, NBC, and at a dinner party, he said, I saw your movie, he said, and the dinosaur effects were sort of like that. Yes, we didn't get that one. But anyway, but Professor Challenger is one of those great Victorian characters that come out. I mean, for instance, I think the greatest portrayal of an Africa in Victorian literature is Umslopogaas in Rider Haggard's King Solomon's Mines. You know, this magnificent great Zulu warrior who was just wonderful. I mean, the Victorians create some extraordinarily archetypal characters, and dear old Professor Challenger is one of them. Yes.
I want to ask you, I know you've done some work in animation, like Gargoyles and Last King Steve. What are some of your memories of working in animation?
Well, animation is generally very silly. Thank God. You know, you get in there and the script is written, there's a bit of the script written, and you've got the cartoonists watching either on TV screens or in the other room watching. And you do what is written, and then you let rip a bit, you know. And they're busily taking notes, oh yeah, we can do that. And then you come back 6 months later and you do a bit more, and suddenly some of your mannerisms, gestures, and stupid phrases are incorporated into the film. It's great fun. Great fun. They're all mad. I know, of course. Now, well, there was somebody who put his hand up somewhere here that I promised to. Okay, you fire away. Yes, go ahead.
Casting directors have come to know you from the most recent projects that are stretching back. What have they said has been your most appealing attribute that is winning the part?
Oh, longevity, probably. Yeah. Yeah, we go for last man standing. Oh, you know, it's the damnable thing about acting, and I speak to all of you who wish to be actors. You have to be good. It is assumed that you will acquire, ability and skill. But in the end, it's luck. And that's the darn thing. You cannot quantify luck. If I join a major company as a young man of 21 and I really work at it, and I'm smart and I'm good, I can rise through the ranks of that company and then perhaps another one, to chairman of the board. I may be the most gifted actor of my generation. I may have all that it takes in theater to be a successful actor. But if I don't get the right part, I'm nothing. There was a great friend of mine. I was at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, there were 22 of us in my year. Every single one of them got a great break, probably on English television, one or two got major films and things like that, except one. And he is still working. There's absolute, I mean, he looks magnificent. He has a bright, intelligent mind. He has actor's intelligence as well as real intelligence. I would use him if I was casting in a shot. But he never, ever got the part that makes you stand out. And suddenly, actors get very vague. They suddenly get, people come up to them and say, oh my God, you're wonderful, I saw you in the movie. And they think it's because of that. The truth of the matter is, a well-written part makes the actor. Stars don't make the part. The great part makes the star. And that we actors forget very easily, because it's got to be me, hasn't it? But that's the darn and damnable thing about being an actor. So if you're going to be an actor, expect failure. You'll probably have. Sorry, that's a bit bleak.
Favorite moments from when you were filming Princess Diaries?
Gary Marshall was the director and producer of The Princess Diaries. Gary was one of these effortlessly funny, generous, gentle guys. We used to say it wasn't so much a question of going to work for Gary. Gary would phone up his old friends and say, why don't you come along, let's play. And we just put these scenes together, and it was effortless and absolutely packed with laughter and smiles and sunshine. And his loss again, you know, such a shame, because he just had that easy magic. You know, we actors are the most privileged people in the world, and we forget that. We get very involved in ourselves. But there are people who work with you. And those of you who are going to be young people in management and stuff like that, make it your job to make the lives of those around you easy and comfortable. Very few of us work well when people say to us, that wasn't really very good, can we try it again, please? You know what, I want a performance here. You know, I just read the last thing you've done, and it's wanting. No, don't do it that way. Take my advice. And we end up not working, not doing the job we're doing. We're working as, what can I do to please you? And that's fatal. And the very best directors, you can use a bit of torment sometimes in some films, but by and large, all of us want to please. And the best thing is to say, one thing, I love what you're doing. That's absolutely superb. I remember working with a lady director on a little commercial I did, I think right at the start of my career. And I did the first thing, and she said, I love it. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, what I want you to do is keep that. Let's do it again. Very good. Now keep that, and just change this. Very good. Let's do it again with that change. And within about half an hour, she completely changed my performance to what she wanted. And I was just so pleased because she likes me. And that's one smart way of dealing with it. Most of us really don't get on. And there are some people in life, I'm afraid, that that you will meet who just simply say, you know what, that doesn't work for me. Do it again. Now, you have experience of this. Let me put it a different way. I mean, if you can't shape up, you're out. You understand? And you can just see everybody going. They can't help That's all I can say. But there's only a certain level to which they will rise anyway, unless they're the bosses. Anyway, no, yes.
Was there a scene in Lord of the Rings that people who built this film because I think you could learn a lot and people's personal laughter?
Well, there was a certain amount of laughter in between shots, I must admit, and during shots. So I make the jump, and I'm very deliberately teetering on the thing, and Orlando reaches forward, and he grabs my beard. If he pulls that beard off, I'm in makeup again for another 4 hours. Not the beard! Yes, sir.
I just wanted to ask you, what was it like to work with King Mulder and Star Trek?
Well, it was glorious, actually. I mean, I actually, the idea for having Da Vinci was Kate's originally. She was talking to the writers, and she said, "What about, you know, in that room having Da Vinci or Picasso?" And they settled for Da Vinci, and I'm rather glad. It was a great chance. I mean, so. Sometimes when that little autograph picture comes out, I actually give them John Rhys-Davies, you know, and Leonardo da Vinci. How often can you get Leonardo da Vinci? Great fun, great fun. Yes?
What was it like working on Shogun with the diverse cast?
Well, Shogun was an has anybody read the book, Shogun? Well done, you. It's a great book. I think, arguably, one of the greatest popular novels of the latter half of the 20th century. I did meet an American diplomat on the train going to Hiroshima who said that he'd worked with the Hearts and Minds program in Vietnam. And he said, before I went, they gave me about 10 or 15 books. And if I just read Shogun, he said, I could have thrown the rest away. It was so interesting because Japan was, I mean, don't forget, we're doing this in 1980. And Japan was still not wholly a Western country, if you know what I mean. We were foreigners. We were desperate foreigners. And you know, and we're all dressed we've all got beards and stuff like that. And we look pretty sinister as foreigners do sometimes. And it was one of the greatest cultural experiences of my life. Because sometimes you just, inadvertently, you just realize the difference sometimes between East and West. Let me give you an example. We're on the boat, and suddenly a door starts rocking with the boat. The director says, "Stop that door." An American carpenter springs up, grabs a piece of wood, grabs a saw, and starts sawing. And after about 4 or 5 strokes, he gives a yelp that has existential boundaries to it. He's picked up a Japanese saw. Now, we in the West know that the only way of using a saw is to cut on the push stroke. The Japanese know that the only way to use a saw is to cut on the pull stroke. And if you've got the other guy's saw, you're doomed. You can't do anything. So naturally, we had to have the great saw competition. 4x2 there, Japanese with his saw, you know, American with his saw, and they get through it in exactly the same time. But you know, it was so much of a culture shock, I think, for both parties. I mean, the Japanese they're so filled with a sense of duty. And, you know, this is my job. I will do it better than anyone else can do it. So we're about to move from one boat to another. And there's the Japanese camera assistant timing it very carefully. He's got a Panavision camera on his side. And the boats come together, he makes his move, and they just go apart. And he goes straight down. And he is down, and we're all going, and we know what he's doing. He's trying to swim to the surface with a Panavision camera on his shoulder. And finally comes up, and he's weeping with shame because he had to let go of the camera. You know, and he sort of died with it. And of course, it's easy. We just put a marker down and sent the diver down and picked it up and stuck it in a fresh water and sent it back to Panavision and say, you sort it out. But it was, you know, any sensible English cameraman who had done that would have let it go, you know, hit the water, let the damn thing go, and survive. But this was a sense of duty. And he really, we just had to console him and say, you know what, it's okay to choose to live. A film camera is, yes, indeed, it's not that important. But it was a magical experience. I would go back to Japan any day. It's just a fabulous, fabulous place, great culture, great people, and they taught me such a valuable lesson. We sit out in the open. We're having our dinner out in the open. The tables, we go, we clear the tables, everyone, and then the lady with the brush comes out. She picks up all the garbage that we have just gotten for. And then she takes a brush and she makes a swirl, pack in the ground. And what she has done, she has taken a mundane, ordinary job and transformed it into art. And I thought if we could do that, we would probably get more out of our lives. I love it, love it. Sorry. Right. Another one. Go on then.
Was there a role that you tried out for that you didn't get, so you really wanted it, and you didn't get it when the person?
Oh, yeah, are there roles that I've wanted that I didn't get? You know, in films, when I go up for a part and I don't get it, it doesn't happen that often. No, I don't mean it like that. What I mean is that normally they're just checking up on you to make sure you've got all the sets of fingers and things like that. You know, if it's going to be you notice I'm a little diminished in this thing again. Makes my familiar use more laughter than but the one or two that I had got and not got have never worked out well. And I'd rather like to tell them that. But let me tell you the most shameless story of right. Now you understand that all of us have lived in a dream life and a real life. But those of us who are mature and wise and experienced in the world, we have our feet planted in reality. Right? And me, I know exactly who I am, what I can do, what I can play. I am not going to be seduced by the offer of, playing Lady Gaga or something like that. Because I have the advantage over all of you. I know who I am. I am solid. I am grounded. So, when my then agent, one Russ Lister, called me and said, "Hey, Johnny, they want you to play Hamlet on the West Coast. Do you want to do it?" I said, no, Russ. I am 55 years old. I weigh 280 pounds. They do not want me to play Hamlet. Yeah, they want you to play Hamlet. Now, there's no money in it, Johnny, and it'll waste up 3 months of your life. You could be earning proper... Russ, please. They don't want me to play Hamlet. They may want me to play Claudius, which I've played, the Gravedigger, or somebody like that, but Johnny, they want you to play Hamlet. Shall I just tell them no? Are you serious, Russ? They want me to play Hamlet? Yeah, look, I'll just tell them you're pass on it. Wait! Don't do that. Okay, yeah, tell them yes. Are we still on for dinner tomorrow night? No, tonight, rather. He said, yeah, 7 o'clock down here. I get down there at 7 o'clock in Santa Monica. Russell, boy, I've reread Hamlet. I've relearned the first act. You know what? I'm going to lose 40 pounds. I mean, I may be old, but then don't forget that Irving was playing Hamlet when he was 53. I mean, I can do this. He said, oh, I got the wrong play. It was Macbeth. Why would anyone who weighs 280 pounds and is 55 think that anyone wants him to play Hamlet? It just goes to show that who we are, who we perceive ourselves to be, and who we actually are. You know, it's such a tenuous thing, and all of us have a capacity. Well, you don't have a capacity for self-deception, but I most certainly have. Anyway, there you are. So that's that. All right. Yes.
So back to animation. I know you voiced Man Ray in SpongeBob. How is that like, and how does that compare to other roles?
When I played Man Ray, it was very cool. And yes, I like to think I slide very much. Great fun. Great fun. Isn't it wonderful to be able to play? I get, you know, I'm a 74-year-old, maybe 75-year-old man. I get up in the morning and I go to play. What's wrong with that picture? Anyway. Yes.
I just wanted to let you know that the Lord of the Rings movie changed a lot of people's lives, and it was 20 years ago that the casting was first starting to be announced, and the internet was just blowing up with everything, and I was a member on a discussion group, lordoftherings.com, and this year a whole bunch of our friends that we met on that website, we're getting together again for the 20th anniversary.
Well done. Yeah, it's extraordinary. I mean, I would have thought it was about 8, 9, 10 years ago. But suddenly, it's September 1999. I went to New Zealand to start and see and find a reason why I could walk away from the production. Quite amazing. But you're right. It is. That film will abide for a few years yet. Wonderful performance, brilliant direction, great script, and not a bad little show. Yes, I've been neglecting people.
I think we've got time for just a couple more questions.
Oh God, shut up! All right. So who? Over there.
At what age did you first start?
About 4 minutes after birth, I suppose. Well, there was a time when I was definitely going to be a nuclear scientist. That was roughly at the age of 10. Then I got sent to a boarding school in England, which I hated everything. The very first play I saw was Oedipus Rex at the age of 11. It hit me like a hammer. I remember leaving the performance and going into the senior library that first formers were not allowed into. And I found and read, and I can tell you what it was, Aristotle on tragedy. Tragedy then is the imitation of an action, complete and of some importance, active, not narrated, in language enhanced by distinct and varying means, and through pity and fear effecting its purgation of these emotions. That was 1955, and I'm still trying to work out really what through pity and fear effecting its purgation of these emotions really means. Afterwards, I knew that my destiny was to be the greatest tragic writer in the world. And to that end, I was a delinquent at school, but they were very accustomed to dealing with terrible colonial boys. So they put me in a school play, and I discovered Shakespeare. And then I had the words to articulate my teenage rage. And I was not a bad actor at school. I played Othello, I played Ben Jonson. In fact, when I played Othello, my Michael Cassio was a man called Michael Terry, whom some of you may remember from Excalibur. He played King Arthur in that. It was not a bad little bunch of lads, and only lads actually. But we had yeah. So, the idea was that I was going to be the greatest tragic writer that you've ever met. We would now be talking about my wonderful literary works at the grand old age. And you see, it was simple. I could probably earn my keep as an actor. But all actors spend at least 6 months of the year out of work. In that time, I would be writing the masterpieces. And I went to RADA, I did a degree, waited for my wife to graduate, taught for a year, went to RADA, left RADA Sunday night, 10 o'clock at night, and started work 10 o'clock the next morning in the Belgrade Theatre, Coventry. And I had 7 weeks out of work in the first 5 years. So I didn't get much writing done, but I'm making up for it now. Anyway. We run out of time. Yes.
I think we'd have one more question.
One more question. Okay. That person over there going. I would have thought that the outcome, the master of murder, was quite evident. Unless you're some subversive little pointy ears with your funny hat on. I'm not going to answer a question like that. It should be evident to anyone who knows that the best dwarf always wins.
And with that, I think we need to say thank you, John, for sharing your insights with us today.